Welcome back to the Two Lads One League podcast. That's Matt. I'm Nick. We are back with another fantastic episode. What I'd like to say is maybe my most anticipated episode so far with what we're doing today. Everything that we're talking about today is all hot takes for the 2026, 2027 Premier League season. Who knows where we're going to go with this? It could go 100 different directions. So we're jumping right into hot takes here in a second. But first, we'll go through just a few brief Premier League items, news, transfer ideas. If you listen to our last episode, we really went on a tangent and we only covered three teams in the Premier League when it comes to the transfer market. So transfers are going crazy. We are getting teams bidding for God knows who at this point. I mean, we've gotten as crazy as Arsenal looking at Vinicius Jr. from Real Madrid. So, what do we make of the transfer market, Matt? Let's talk about this for a couple minutes and then we'll dive into our hot takes.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting on the window. I mean, especially with coming after the World Cup, kind of seeing the different names just hop around. John Stones going to Inter Milan, which was interesting, but at the same time, not because he wasn't extending by any means. But at the same time, you wonder if he's going to maybe go to another Premier League side, right? I thought it was interesting seeing Welbeck and Henderson now both go to, or potentially both going to Chelsea. I don't know that's confirmed.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Um, but that's also interesting and weird because you look at Xabi Alonso and kind of what he's wanting because he looked like he was trying to go after Xhaka, and then Sunderland shut that down really quick. So now he needs to find somebody else that kind of has that experience for that position. So it's interesting kind of seeing some of these names bounce around in the Prem, but at the same time, um, like you mentioned, you have likes of like Arsenal going in big for like a Vinny, which would be crazy. As much as I do not like Arsenal and do not like Vinny, I still think that would be kind of cool to see and watch, day in and day
Absolutely.
out or week in and week out. So it's gonna be interesting. I love seeing just these teams really fight for their spot. There's so much stigma goes behind the type of transfers you have. And I also saw today the likes of Bradley Barcola going
Yeah.
back to Liverpool, or that's what his top club would be. So it's interesting. I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously when people and players leave, those clubs will try to pick somebody else up. So I don't know. That you've got um, likes of Nicholas Jackson leaving, maybe trying to get under Unai Emery, but I know that's kind of a difficult deal because they can't do a loan with him anymore.
Saw that. I didn't know that
Um,
was a rule in the Premier League. I think that's a
yeah,
great rule. Can't just loan a bunch of people and
right.
call it
You
a
can't just
day.
loan exactly. So it's interesting. I think Nicholas Jackson's a great player. When he was at Villarreal, I thought he was great under Emery, and then obviously he went to Chelsea from then. But ultimately, I think you've got some names, some bigger names. When I say big names, more of a historical names, I should say, ones
Yeah.
that have definitely made a name for themselves in the Premier League, like Danny Welbeck and Jordan Henderson. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting, but it's also super exciting. Nothing's set in stone right now, so you get all the speculation and all the rumors, but I'm sure we know best when it comes to rumors
Yes, we
and not
do.
knowing if anything's confirmed or not. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting. I'm super excited.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how much business gets done here in the next. We're kind of in a weird point right now because a lot of the clubs are on preseason tours, and so they're not wherever they're from, whether it's London or Manchester or Liverpool or whatever. They're halfway across the world. Chelsea and Tottenham are in Australia, Liverpool's over in the US, Sunderland and Leeds are in the US. You just kind of have clubs going everywhere right now. So it is kind of an awkward time when it comes to the transfer market. Not that deals don't
Hmm.
get done, but I find that probably to be a little bit more difficult when like the managers, for example, are just not there. Now doesn't mean stuff doesn't get done, but I think that maybe that may get put on a little bit more of a pause before those teams get back, final preseason games, season starts. I feel like there's always deals that get done last second anyway. And we have a lot of time left in the market, so we will definitely see where that goes. So, let's dive into hot takes. We have hot takes, and the point is, people are supposed to disagree with a hot take. And I will say this too about any league, doesn't necessarily even have to be the Premier League or even the sport of soccer. It almost is never chalk. It almost never ends the way people predict. It almost It's just never black and white. There's always some crazy stuff that happens. I feel like the Premier League is great with that in terms of it's very volatile. Anybody can beat anybody. And now we're going to talk about hot takes. Like that's what the point is of hot takes. And I think I have some pretty wild hot takes. If you listen to, gosh, I don't know if that was last episode. I think it was last episode with Newcastle conversation. I mean, one of my four hot takes, and we can touch on it just briefly before we get into the rest, is I think Newcastle will 100% find themselves in a relegation battle come this upcoming season. I don't think that they have nearly enough to compete for Europe. And if they didn't have enough last year to compete for Europe, they finished what, like 14th last year? And now people are 12th to 14th, right in that range. They've lost more than they've bought players, yes, young players, that I think are being asked to do a lot this season. And I just think that it's going to be a real struggle, especially that they've lost a couple key players as well. And I think that there's a real world where they find themselves in a relegation battle. You know, there was rumors about them signing James Trafford, the goalkeeper from Manchester City, and he went over to Leeds. They've missed out on a lot of their main targets, from what we've seen reports of. And, you know, I think that there's a real world where out of my four hot takes, I feel the best about this hot take. I I genuinely think that they will finish 14th or worse, and I think that they really could find themselves struggling and competing for that relegation spot, especially if one of those three teams that has come up has a pretty good season. And we tend to see at least one team play pretty well. So that's the first hot take. I think Newcastle finds themselves in a relegation battle.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I know we talked about a little bit about that last episode. It'll be weird. I mean, who knows if Bruno leaves and whatnot, but they are trying their best to pick up some replacements and more of the younger side of players, I should say. But we'll see. I think that was actually a pretty good one. I'm curious to know what will happen. I'm writing some down here, and I don't know which one I want to pick.
Yeah.
But my first one, Garnacho having about 15 goals and assists together this season in combination.
Why do you think that?
You know, one of the main reasons why did that is because out of all the managers in the Prem, there's always one, in my opinion, like Emery in this example, that finds some of the flair, uniqueness, positivity from some of these guys that are just consumed by social media and the negatives behind it. I didn't think Garnacho was bad at United. It wasn't like in comparison to anybody really else. It's not like he was a Jeremy Doku by any means, but like, come on, like you're going up against I mean, Mateus Tell, like who's better in that scenario? You know what I mean? It's like they're both very similar, and I think Garnacho's somebody that you give him a little confidence. Um, I think he can definitely produce. I don't think obviously Chelsea was the right move for him by any means because there's just such high standards you have to have there on top of if you do make a mistake, it's the end of the world. Not saying that's any different than United, but you are coming from the youth academy for United. So you have a bit more of the benefit of the doubt because it's like, oh, he's homegrown. He's our guy. So I'm still waiting for him to kind of find his feel in the Prem because I think he's good. I think he's the type of player that he'd go to Roma and put up 20 goals and assists in the season and then come back to the Prem, something like Salah did. Um, so I don't know. I thought it was like we said, a hot take, but I know all the negative stigma behind him, and I wanted to take the different route and say he will do well this season because I would like to see someone like him produce. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not performed well,
Will
but
he
at the
start
same
for Villa
time,
on the left?
well, you think he's Morgan Rogers' replacement is kind of how I took it when because they picked up Garnacho quick after Rogers left, and that was a $40 million loan by I don't know clause, I don't know what it was, but a good little profit from Morgan. They're in you know some financial trouble in a way with the league, so they have to be somewhat careful on what they buy and what they spend and who they sell. But if you look at all the likes of these wingers, I mean, he's proven himself in the Prem to do well. I don't see too bad of a an issue signing him. I just think it's funny because I think he will do. I think he'll be decent.
Yeah. I think it's a fair take. I think, he kind of, the situation with him kind of reminds me of Jaden Sancho.
Yeah,
And I hope it doesn't end that way like it did for Jaden Sancho because, I mean, he's just fallen off a cliff. And I
yeah,
feel bad for Jaden Sancho. Um, so I really not, well, obviously Garnacho wasn't bought for like 100 million from wherever, what, Dortmund? Is that where Sancho came from? So,
right,
like, he started at United. He came up through United, kind of had to earn that spot. He was done, wanted to move, goes to Chelsea, doesn't really get any time. I mean, let's be real on the left there at Chelsea, loan him to Villa, and they're gonna get pretty much as they bought for him from United, from Villa at the end of the day. Look, I think he's obviously a talented winger. There's no denying that. I feel like it's more of a mental thing with him. I feel like he's more of an emotional player, and I feel like he has times where he like is just MIA and lacks the effort and intensity that the Premier League requires on a second by second, minute by minute basis. But I
right.
think that's a fair take. I think Aston Villa are a very solid team. I think Aston Villa obviously can beat anybody in the Premier League. There are enough weapons on that team, even with Morgan Rogers leaving, to where and Yuri Tillman's leaving, to where they still are going to be a threat going forward. So
Do
it'll be
they
interesting.
have Do they have Harvey Elliott?
No, he's back at Liverpool because he was
Okay,
just
so that
straight
was just a
loan.
loan
Yeah, so he
with
was just
no.
straight loan. And he didn't even
Okay,
play either. So it's just a really interesting dynamic with Villa. But Garnacho's going to get minutes, so hopefully he earns those minutes and he, plays well in
I'm
those
excited to
minutes.
see. I think he might be good for him there.
I think that's a
All
good
right,
hot take. I think it's a good hot
let's.
take.
I got a couple. I keep writing some down, so I'm curious to know another one of
Okay, you
yours.
ready for this one?
Uh-huh.
This is probably my biggest hot take, and I'm just going to put this out here now. I don't necessarily believe this hot take, but when I was starting to come up with things, I kind of thought of this and I thought, oh, this is a good one. I could make an argument for this, and so that's what I'm going to do. One of the 8 clubs in the Premier League last season to earn European football, so Conference League, Europa League, Champions League. One of those 8 teams will be relegated at the end of next season.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So one of those 8 clubs will be relegated. However, Arsenal, Man City, no. They're not. Liverpool, no. Villa, no. I had to put all 8. I think that I've narrowed it down to 3 of those 8. So Brighton, Sunderland, and Bournemouth. I think
Yeah,
one of those
it's
teams
funny you
go.
say that because
I think
I
one of
have
those teams
one.
goes down.
Okay, well, I know exactly my in those three which one I have going down.
And here's my argument why. One, I don't think any of them have done nearly enough business this summer. Brighton has done some, but they've also lost a couple of their key pieces. And if they lose Danny Welbeck, that's going to hurt. Um, they have not purchased like anybody for a club being in European football this year to balance that with Carabao, FA, and Prem, and they're not used to doing that. I think they're in for a rude awakening. Obviously, Sunderland came up, had the best season they could have possibly had, and then I kind of look at Bournemouth and I sit here and I'm like, they're not built at all. They lost their manager that got them to this point. He moves on to Liverpool. Yes, they have talented players, but there's a lot of rumors of those talented players leaving this summer. If they lose an Alex Scott or a Krupi, I think I think Bournemouth could definitely be in a relegation fight. So I think one of those 3 teams in this hot take will have European football and will be relegated. I mean, shoot, we had European football last season and we almost
Well,
got relegated. So I think one of these 3 teams will be relegated at the end of the next season. Thoughts?
out of those three teams, one of them I have here saying going far in Europe.
Oh,
So I think that was awesome because yeah, I think honestly you're right between one of the three. One of the teams of those three I think is going to get relegated. Um, I have a weird feeling it's Brighton.
God, that'd be crazy.
I know. This is the type of, they have been praised so much over the years with how well they've done in business and the young side. I'm just waiting for it to not work for one season. And because it's like, I mean, think about it, the last 10 years or so, I mean, when they got brought up or when they got to the Prem, it wasn't 10 years. But, say the last 5, 6 years, I mean, everything they've done has been right. Everything.
It's
So it's
true.
like, what are they doing right compared to other clubs? What are we missing? And obviously, we tried the youth side of things, so I get some hair flying. We have, we had Tottenham try the little young side route, and it didn't really work. So I don't know. I'm curious. I mean, that's the first time too I've seen Brighton really drop loads of cash on a player, and ironically, it was one of our center backs. But I just don't know. I really don't know because the moment he's not playing well,
Here's my thing too.
I don't
Like, what
know.
about Bournemouth?
I
Like,
hear you in Bournemouth.
they lose.
They have some pretty good stars still.
They still have. I'm not saying they don't. They lose Senesi to us. If they lose either or both of Krupi and Alex Scott, and they don't have time in the window to purchase somebody to replace. Now, granted, they do have Ryan over on the right, and he's a stud. Like,
Right.
look, it's a
Well, think
hot
about
take.
last season, Nick. The whole entire defensive line for Bournemouth got bought, and then they
I
make
know.
Europe.
They do great business. How much of it's the manager? And here's the other thing, like we're not doing Premier League predictions right now, and like this isn't one of my hot takes, but I also think there's a world where we say Fulham and Palace in the relegation fight.
Yeah,
Like I think Palace is going to be
they
really
just
struggling, and I
they
think
just lost
Fulham
their center
really
back.
going to struggle. So like
Yeah,
the thing is, 8 teams can't get relegated, right?
right.
And we have three coming up where I'm sure most predictions are going to have at least two of those getting relegated and going back down. So, in the world of the hot takes, Brighton, Sunderland, or Bournemouth are going to get relegated as they have to balance four competitions. Where I think, especially these three clubs, can do well in their European competitions because they're not in the Champions League. The clubs they'll be playing, they can beat.
Right.
How much does that take a toll on them if they do make deep runs to where it gets to a point where they're like, how much are they going to prioritize Europe over Prem? Does that backfire? What does that dynamic look like? Are those clubs built for a sustained European run? Because I don't think any of those three are as of today. I
No,
think that there's an
good
argument.
points.
I think there's an argument. Hot take. That was my second. What you got?
I don't know what I want to choose here. I got a couple. All right, this one's not at all biased. Maybe partially.
I don't know.
I think. I think Arsenal goes big in the window, gets who they want, and I think they end up having the most injuries all season.
Oh,
So I think you get the hype. They need to go back to back. First place, and then I think this season they're going to experience some of the most injuries. Saliba's now
okay.
out for 5 months, 6 months. I say you get a Jokeres getting out with something for 3 months. I could totally see something happen. It's like this is not the Arsenal we saw last season.
You know what's
But I
funny?
just I just said Arsenal because um just how they won last season. I know last Prim season was just a whatever, blah blah blah. It is over. They won fair and square, done. But now this season, I'm curious to know if it's actually going to be sustainable. Um, and we're seeing more and more likes of injuries. And I don't know if many clubs have really experienced what we've experienced in the last 2 seasons or last season. Um, but it was one of the ones I was kind of thinking because I just think it's going to happen. I mean, think when Rodri got hurt with City, it was detrimental for him. So there are critical pieces and components to these teams. I feel like it's just if you don't have that person, uh-oh. So what do you think?
I, you know, it's super interesting. And like, you obviously don't wish injuries upon any club. We've dealt with the most injuries I've ever seen of any of my teams in any of my sports. Like, it's stupid. Like, my American football teams have less injuries than Tottenham does. Like, it's insane. And obviously, with Saliba being out, what seems to be, almost half the season is substantial, especially now that they, as of today, have not done anything about that in the market. Not that they necessarily will. Um, in my opinion, they're one or two injuries away in key positions to
Drop.
struggle a little bit. If they lose like the likes of a Gabriel, like don't forget, like this was by far the best, not by far, but this was the best defense in the Premier League last season. They only
Oh,
gave up
no question
27
about it.
goals. So
Yeah.
like All right, you're already down what some would argue is the best center back in the world. Now you're already down one, and now you have Gabriel, who some would argue is the second best center back in the world. And okay, he's gonna have to have a little bit of a bigger role now. What happens if he like gets hurt? Even if he's out a few games, like that's the title like that. You're out a few games.
Well,
Like
what
you
I'm
draw
gonna
or you
stop you. I'm gonna stop you. What if David Raya gets hurt?
okay, what if David Raya gets hurt? What if Declan Rice gets hurt? What if Zubamendi gets hurt? What if these midfielders that control the entire game for Arsenal get hurt and they rely on backups who are still super strong players? Don't no denial.
Well,
I
put it this
think
way.
Arsenal's weakest point has always been their attack because they have the ball all game. Like,
What's their weakest point when it comes to like an injury and then fulfilling that position? That's
well,
why I
then
say David
it's gonna
Raya.
be it's well, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, the keeper position, but I think in the current situation they're in, if Gabriel goes down with an injury, I think they're in deep water.
So
I
who do
think
they
that
have to replace that? They have Hincapié,
Mosquera,
Julian Timber
yeah, but I mean some of those play the right and Ben
outside.
White, I mean, but some of those play the right and left backs.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
like,
Hincapié plays the outside back right now,
well,
but
so does Timber.
right, because of the other
So
two being center backs. But at the
so
same
it's
time, I don't
it's going to
know.
be an interesting dynamic. I think if they lose the likes of a Declan Rice or a Zubamendi, there's been rumors about Odegaard, like even possibly leaving. Like, I don't know what that actually means. I think that their attack is good, but their midfield and defense is significantly better than their attack. And that's not knocking their attacking players. I think that it's an interesting take on what if everything doesn't go as smoothly as it did last season for you? Because
Right,
it went very smoothly for them.
right.
They won all the games. Like they had very little injury issues in key positions. Like, yeah, Saka always kind of has like hamstring issues throughout the season, whatever. But like they didn't have any center backs go. Like they had the heart of that team healthy through the Prim and through the Champions League because they got to that final too. So it's going to be a really interesting situation. What happens if it doesn't go as well? Because I mean,
Right.
frankly, it probably won't. And so, like, how do they handle that? Do they have what they need to handle that? And I think that's a fair take. I like
Yep.
it.
There we go.
All right.
How much time we have left?
Um, we're running, probably have about 20 minutes.
All right, sweet. Do
All
another
right.
one.
Here's another one. I don't even know if I agree with this, but let's do it. I think Chelsea finishes above Manchester City next season.
Wow, that's an extremely hot take.
And today's like not looking ahead to like potential people leaving or coming in or any of that, based on current squad alone, based on current manager alone, Chelsea finishes above Man City. The likes of, if you look at just the Chelsea team today with the manager, which I think that manager is I mean, Xabi Alonso is a great upgrade. He proved it over in Leverkusen that he can do something pretty darn special. If he gets Chelsea playing at close to potential with who they have on that pitch, that's a top 3-2 team in the league when
Yeah,
healthy. Like attacking wise, Jao Pedro up top, Rogers and Palmer under him. If he can get Palmer playing at what Palmer used to play at, and then he has Rogers playing well, Jao Pedro is a heck of a player. Drop that back behind Rogers and Palmer, and now all of a sudden you have Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo. I mean, those are two monster midfielders who can control the entire midfield. Okay. Now you're sitting here and you're like, dang, like that's pretty darn strong. Okay, let's go.
yeah,
Let's say left back is like Hato because we don't really know what that looks like for them right now. Um, Reece James plays the right wing back, and then you have the three center backs. Let's say Lacroix's in the middle, or whatever he played at Palace. Just put him in that one. And then the other two, as of today, are probably what Colwell and maybe like Fofana or something like that.
yeah,
Weaker, no denying, weaker. And then goalkeeper Robert Sanchez is definitely not the best. Don't get me wrong. However, playing to potential, that is a that team could that team's going to finish above Man City. Man City's had an unbelievable 10 years. An unbelievable 10 years under Guardiola.
I
They
wouldn't be
still
surprised if
have
they don't take top four.
okay. I'm not again. I think Man City obviously will be a very difficult team to beat, and they will play
Yeah.
a very similar style under Enzo Maresca. Don't get me wrong. However, I think they had issues last season where they kind of struggled against teams. They're going to
Right.
beat down on the teams that they're going to beat down on. There's no denying that. But it's just going to be a different team this upcoming season than it's been under Guardiola. It's not the same manager. I don't care if he like came up under Guardiola or any of that. I don't care. Arteta came up under Guardiola. Think how long it took him at Arsenal to get to where he wanted to get. I think that Man City is going to be in a situation where they're going to have teams hunting them down, the likes of a Chelsea. I don't think Liverpool is nearly as good as they need to be as of today. I think Villa will be a tough out. Um, I mean, Manchester United will be a difficult out. Is there a world where Man City finishes fourth or fifth and Chelsea finishes second or third? Yeah, there
Hmm.
is. And I'm not basing this on future business because we know Chelsea will probably buy somebody. If not, we've already mentioned Henderson and Welbeck. I don't think that moves the needle by any means. We have 10 minutes now. Um, I don't think that moves the needle for them by any means. But as of today, I think it's a conversation.
I don't mind that. It's decent. I didn't think about that either. But you could almost just do devil's advocate almost on that and say, I don't know if this is a hot take, but City not finishing top four. Will be interesting.
Who
I am
would
gonna
finish top four?
say what?
Who would finish top four?
Gosh, I don't even know right now.
I don't either.
I don't know right now.
No, don't. All right, go to your next one because we only have 10 minutes.
This we can end it on this one because I think it fits well with our podcast, but maybe I'm wrong, maybe not. But hot take is Spurs win a trophy this season.
Hmm. Here's my problem.
A trophy.
Here's my problem is I'm a fan, so I'm going to find a way to back this too. So, will it be the Premier League? No.
No. But hey, you got
However,
likes that maybe care about FA Cup.
yeah. And the
I'm not
thing
opposed.
is, here's kind of where a lot of that's going to depend on the draw early. You
Yeah.
don't want to get like a Man City or an Arsenal in like a third round. Like I hate that. It's so dumb. However, think of again these teams having to play in multiple competitions,
Yeah.
and we now as a club have a trophy that we've won very recently, so that oh they don't win trophies is out the window. That pressure's not there like that.
Correct.
The manager seems a little bit more like somebody who's backed within the club. The players seem to really like him. He's going to be pushing for trophies. I think that that's a fair take. I think that obviously you'll have to beat some really good teams to win anything. So I think that that's a good hot take. I mean,
I
again,
mean,
I'm a fan
you're
too.
not going out to sign 85 million Fernandez and 100 million Tonali to finish the top four.
No,
I
you're
mean,
going
yes,
out.
you are,
Yeah,
but that's
but
the
you're
bare
going out
minimum.
to compete and win and what
Right.
you're in.
That's my point. So I mean, like, despite how long it's been since we've won one, obviously we did one 2 years ago, but you get my point. It's one of those things now where I truly believe that maybe this season could be a season we could win something. Now, but again, it's the hope that kills you, right?
It's the hope that kills you. But last season was as rough a season as I've ever had watching this club, and I'm telling myself it's only up from there.
Yeah.
And I think that the manager, we have the right guy as of today. And I'm somebody that's like willing to back managers. We backed Thomas Frank for too long, but I'm a good. I'll back a manager. The summer would suggest that we're ready to roll, and it doesn't
Yep.
sound like we're done. There's been reports of Savinho kind of back up and running again today after he's asked to leave Man City. If we do get him, which I think we just need to pull the trigger at this point, if we really are involved, um, I think he'd be a great winger. I mean, he'd be an upgrade. Let's just put it that way. So,
Yes.
I like it. I think that's great. Do you have any more? I mean, we have 6.5, 7 minutes.
Yeah,
So
I got another one.
go. Let's hear it.
If Spurs can't find a winger, where is Raheem Sterling?
Oh, stop.
Is that
Heck
too much of a
no,
hot take?
bro. That's a hot take. I know.
Okay, too far. It's too far.
Raheem Sterling?
It was more of a joke because we were talking about Chelsea, and I was like, "Where's Raheem these days?"
Dude, I'd vomit if he signed for us.
Well,
He does the same crap with the ball at his feet, and he doesn't do
yeah,
anything.
I
He
know.
can't he can't score in an open net from 2 yards out.
This is my
He's
hot take.
go
That
ahead.
was jokes, but I'm going off of when you said about Chelsea finishing above City.
Okay.
I think Welbeck, if he goes over there, gets more goals than João Pedro.
I could see I
But
could
like
see
in,
Welbeck really thriving under Xabi Alonso's system.
I could see Welbeck having maybe 16 goals in the season, and then right behind him, João Pedro at 12
I love that.
type thing. But both of them are always scoring. But Welbeck's kind of like the role model, so to speak, for
Yeah.
Zhao. I don't know, but I think Welbeck might actually do something for him, which is weird.
Okay, what about this hot take?
Hmm.
Liverpool outside the top six.
I don't think that's a hot take.
Oh, it's
I
not
think
good
that's
enough hot take. All right, Liverpool outside the top eight.
there we go. I like that. That's I like that a lot because
Here's the problem. Are we sitting here just not rating Liverpool and dragging them through the mud, and they're going to show up next season and be the Liverpool that we haven't seen in a couple of years?
I don't know. I don't know. There's too many.
Under
It's just you think about how many major components of that squad has left. Salah's gone. Kanate's gone. Your manager's gone.
Robertson's gone.
Like I don't. It's such a hit or miss right now because.
I mean, we know how they're going to play. It's going to be the
But the
high
thing is, though,
octane
is
press.
you have your role. Yeah, well, no, I completely agree with that. But you have Uriola coming in, implementing maybe his tactic and what he wants. But who knows how many of those players are sitting there thinking, I cannot wait for this season to be over.
Well, and some of those, I mean, like a
Like
Virgil
Van
van Dijk's
Dyke,
on the edge of
yep,
just Alisson's on the
Alisson.
edge of leaving. Like
So that's my point.
they're
It's
just getting
like,
older.
yeah. So it's like, what kind of mentality do they have going into it? How does, and I think Uriel is probably doing a good job trying to implement those role model statuses amongst some of the younger guys in the group. But I mean, even in preseason, they didn't look anything crazy.
No, I mean Sunderland looked decent too. So in that game they played against each other. But hey,
It'll be interesting. I'm so excited to see what's going to happen in this because there's just so many clubs now actually fighting for the Prem, or not fighting for the Prem, fighting in the transfer
it's
window.
such a good league, dude.
You
It's
know,
such a good league. Like top to bottom, it's incredibly strong, and it like no other league competes with it top to bottom. And you can turn on the 10 a.m. game that's on Peacock, not even on national television, and it's a matchup of two solid clubs that are going to probably compete for Europe or relegation or something. And it's like there's just so much volatility in the Premier League, and like we've seen it last season. No other league, there's no other league where a team like a Tottenham, in terms of size of the club, finishes 2 points out of relegation, or West Ham, which is a massive club in London,
yeah,
goes down because you have a bad season and they fought hard to kind of recover, but they at the end of the day couldn't recover. Like
right,
you can't sit there in the Premier League and have really bad stretches and get away with it. You can in other leagues, but you just cannot in the Premier League. I mean, and no easy game. Even the team that finishes 20th, they'll give you a run for their money. I
no,
remember
no,
watching Tottenham last season, and we were in this relegation battle, and Wolves went to Nottingham Forest, and I was like, we need Nottingham to draw or lose this game, and they drew 0-0 to Wolves at home. And I thought, and that was right before we went to London to watch Nottingham Forest kick our butts. But like,
right.
it's a league where one off night you'll lose, and it could be to the team that's in 20th and has 8 points. Like it's just crazy the depth and the talent and how much money is spent and how anybody can beat anybody. And it's a conversation for a whole nother episode, but it's it's the Premier League and it's the best league in the world.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. Especially too making that comment. I feel like even those teams that get promoted from the championship are neck and neck with the teams
Yeah.
that are bottom half of the table, like
Like I
14,
think Coventry
15.
will have a good season this year.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
we haven't even talked about any of those teams coming up yet. But
I
like
know. And don't get me
I
wrong, there's
think
a
Hull
couple
City's going to be
outliers.
bad, but
Yes, that's
I think
true.
they'll finish 20th. And that's again, we will when we get closer to the kickoff of the season, once the window's kind of giving us a little bit more, we'll we'll do an episode where we do our top 12.
Predictions.
Yeah, yeah,
All right.
yeah. So Any final thoughts with about a minute left?
That's all I got.
Two lads, one league, hot takes. I think we went kind of crazy there.
I liked
Um,
it.
who knows what the next episode is going to be about? We got to dive into other clubs in this transfer window. Preseason's in full swing, if that's something we need to talk about too. But hey, we are less than a month away from the Premier League season starting, and this is like the best time of the year because I am super excited and super giddy about it. But as always, that's Matt. I'm Nick. Two lads, one league. Hot takes episode. I think that was pretty successful. It's quite interesting what we have to say. So,
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
all right. We'll see everybody next time.